Hey, hello everybody who's on here. We have got, let me switch to live chat here. Julie, you're first. Hello. Patty, hi, good evening. Wendy, hello. How are things your way? Kiri, good evening. Alicia, hello. Aw, it's the ladies group here tonight. No, you guys are great. You're working in the kitchen. Oh, I hear you. It is that time of night. Yeah. It's always kind of dicey for me if I have time to get dinner right beforehand or if I have to wait till afterwards, which is then like 7 o'clock my time. So usually it ends up being afterwards. But then I get into moderating 2 other channels, and all of a sudden it's 9 o'clock. So I have to kind of dive out for a little while and say, hey, I'm going to go get dinner. But no, so I totally get it. It rained 2 days ago for half an hour in Manizzo. Yeah. Yeah, you guys, there's crazy weather all over the place, right? Alicia, I was wondering if you felt the effects of Hurricane, I want to say it was Earl. Was it Earl that went up into the Atlantic and kind of skimmed the coast up there? I was just wondering if you felt any of that. So, hey, Dave, good evening to you. We have our token male on board. You guys are funny. Oh, good. I'm so glad you got some rain, Patty. That is so good. Yes. Boy, people, that's funny. Yay. Oh, yeah, we have been kind of warm. I mean, today, well, it hit 83. It was like 5 or 6 degrees warmer than what it was supposed to be. So right now it's still 77. I'm in a sweatshirt because the air conditioning got cool in the house. But the yeah, last week was like beautiful. I mean, it's been really, really dry, and I should be outside like painting trim and doing all that stuff, but I've been kind of tied up doing some other things. But anyway, it's been beautiful. This week, I think Thursday, supposed to start, starting kind of in a shift of change for us. We're supposed to get some rain for a couple days and then be nice for a couple days and rain and then, the back and forth kind of. So nothing that's going to be like a solid 10 days of dry, like we've had. We actually haven't had any rain really. Well, I want to say Thursday night we had a little bit, maybe a quarter of an inch or something, but otherwise we haven't had a good soaking rain for probably 4 or 5 weeks. And so the yard is brown. It's very brown out there. And so it is. Is the humidity from Earl, thankfully nothing less. Oh, okay, Newfoundland got whipped. That's what I was seeing, Newfoundland, not Nova Scotia. So Newfoundland, yeah. Wow. Lots of rain. Okay. Ooh, soup and stew weather. Yes. We're definitely getting into that. So we're kind of into it's weird. The weather is like about 3 weeks early. And today I saw my first Asian beetle of the season, which, yes, it's like 3 weeks ahead of time. Usually we don't get them till the beginning of October. However, some fields have already started harvesting the soybeans, and that's when we get the beetles coming in, because once they stir up all of the dried soybean fields, where the Asian beetles have been feasting on all the aphids in there, it just like stirs it up and then they fly everywhere into our homes. Oh, hey, Glenn, how are you? Good evening. Oh, that is warm there, Alicia. Yeah. Not hot like Kiri's had to deal with, or Julie, but yesterday you reviewed the 6 days of creation. Oh. That is cute, Carrie. Oh my goodness. The seventh day God rested. God got arrested. That is very cute. Oh my goodness. He broke his big toe and poor Jacob. I hope he heals well and we'll be praying for him. Yes. Give him a hug from us if he takes hugs. I don't know if he does, but um, yeah, absolutely. Toes, you can't really do much for them other than just tape them up and let them heal. But yeah, that doesn't feel good. Um, oh, you're welcome, Glenn. Absolutely. Yeah, kids are really funny. Um, yeah, the so weather is crazy. We had the what was it, Hurricane K? Was it K that hit Baja and then up through Southern California, and now it's like swept on up. But anyway, yeah, it's lots of things happening. It's been actually pretty calm here for which is unusual for us. But it's nice to have a period of nice, dry, clear, calm weather, but it also brings about other things. So, hey, Eliza, how are you doing? Virna Flower Farm from northern Minnesota. Good to see you. I'm so glad you can be here. How's the flower business doing? So we're kind of drought like here, and I was supposed to get out and water the garden today, and I totally got sidetracked. So I have to make sure I do that after live before the sun goes down. Um, but anyway, I would like to start out with oh, Kiri, you got a cold front last night? Nice. Yeah. I know it drops 10 degrees and it's like, oh, what's going on? Oh, yes, we could use rain. Absolutely, we can use the rain. But I think definitely there's seems to be a shift in the forecast anyway. We'll see whether or not that happens. But anyway, and then it's going to be bringing in cooler weather too. Um, so what is it? 82 through Thursday, and that's when the rain starts. Oh, we now have 4 solid days of rain. And then the highs stay in the 70s. Ooh, by next Wednesday, highs is 65. But we've had a number of nights in the mid 40s. And so I know that that's pretty much just stopped all flower production on any of the blossoms for the beans or tomatoes or anything. So, um, but no danger of frost yet, which is really, really good. What was it, 2 years ago? Our first frost was September 10th, and it was crazy. Oh my goodness. So today's September 12th, so it would have been, yeah, I'm glad we're not heading into that this year. I still have to keep track of the weather though, keep my eye on it. So, uh, anyway, I want to give my garden tip first. And it's well, it's garden tip, semi prep tip type of thing, but mostly garden tip. And what it is just as you're finishing things up, as you're getting the final harvest in, pulling the plants or whatever, just step back for half hour or whatever it is, whatever you need, and just review your garden plan that you had for this year. Think about the parts that were really successful and what wasn't. Write down those things that you want to keep doing, whether it was amendments or, you know, supports or the placement in your garden where you had things growing, things that maybe got more sun that or got less sun, different things like that, because we're always kind of like moving things around and adjusting and changing every year. And just, it's like, what did you do differently for that? I just think about, you need a big load of manure there, Dave. Yes, yes. I remember you said you need to really amend your soil. So, Wisconsin got snow the other day. I didn't hear about that. Oh my goodness. Um, yeah, yeah. Wow, that is crazy. It must be northern Wisconsin, and I mean, it did get. I got to, what did I say, 46. But we've been so dry now. Eastern Minnesota and Wisconsin has gotten, and then into Michigan, they've gotten a lot of precipitation that has been missing me on the western side of Minnesota. So they're far more lush right now. And probably, you know, um, that cold mixed with the precipitation. I'm sure they had that. So you had 39 yesterday. Okay. So, mm, yeah, that's getting chilly. Absolutely. Um, I was watching Chelsea, a Little Mountain Ranch, and it was on Instagram. She was putting some things up, and she was showing they had gone camping for a couple days, and they came home, and there'd been a frost. They're in British Columbia, kind of in the mountain areas, and came back home and they had had a frost while they were gone, and so she was showing like all the damage to like all the squash plants and everything. Luckily, the squash themselves, all the fruit, were kind of buried under the leaves and hidden, but it definitely killed off all of the plants themselves. So, hi Lisa, how are you doing? Um, Thank you, Michelle. Good to see you. It does help me. Thank you. Yep, those thumbs ups do help. Um, so yeah, it's crazy. So you can, think everything's fine. It's warm, and you go, and then zap. You get that frost, and so now they're like, we have to get all this harvested because it could happen again tonight type of thing. So anyway, she was showing what was going on there. And it's, some of those more tender plants. Now the brassicas, your Brussels sprouts and broccoli and cabbage and all that, they can take a little bit more of the cold and a light frost and everything. But squash are very, very delicate. Of course, tomatoes, peppers, any of those, they just kind of wilt. Um, Pics of snow. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to check some of that out. So Kira, you dumped a ton of leaves in a place where you've had trouble getting rid of bitterweed. Okay. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's awesome. Going back to lurking. All right, Michelle. And I know this is right over dinner time, so I totally get it if you're able to listen while you do it. I just appreciate you being able to do that, though, even if you can't comment or anything, but just being in here and doing that. So anyway, yes, review your garden. Write down those things that you want to keep doing, those that you would like to change or add next year, and then create a plan for next year's development. Because right now you've been out in the garden, you've been harvesting, you've been seeing what's working and what's not. This has been August into September, and you're like, okay, by next April or May, you're going to probably forget most everything that happened this last month. And so that's where if you can write it down, even if you don't do anything about it, but just write it down and just say, these seeds were good, these weren't, this compost was crap. No pun intended. Um, but this compost just didn't work. I know that there was a lot of uh, compost or soil amendments out there that were actually laced with herbicides and different things like that were that were killing your plants. I mean, you look from Roots and Refuge to just all over. And I know Heaven's Essentials had some trouble, and it's just like there were certain brands that were just not either killing your plants or stunting them or not producing the fruit on them, or there was just real problems with it. So reviewing that, writing down what you used, what you need to do differently, maybe something that you can uh, place in there, over the winter to help combat that or something like that. So take a photo of what you hated and note on it, never do this again. That's a good one. That's a very good. I like that. Taking a picture of it right there. You got a truckload 2 years ago and you're done purchasing. Okay. 2 years in a row and you're done. Yeah, you had to do a lot of rebuilding, Wendy. Absolutely. You do have late planted squash growing. Oh, that's good. Got fruit, but no clue. Oh, well, Carrie, you just have a very difficult place. Absolutely. So, that's a tough one. Dave, you need a truckload and not looking for it. Oh, yes, I know. Especially, do you have a place for like organic compost around there that you can get? And that's the hard thing when you're trying to expand your garden space to be growing more and everything. It's like to create enough compost for that, unless you have a lot of animals, a lot of production going on, different things. It's really hard to develop enough, and even those that have a lot of animals and a lot of um, hay and manure production and different things like that is sometimes not even enough. So I hear you. So Wendy, this soil I got 2 years ago still won't grow. Oh no. And like you said, the money you put into it and the work that you put into it and the expense of the seeds and everything that you put into that, counting on that soil to help produce something, and it just doesn't. I know that's you compost from your neighbor. Okay, good. Get organic cow manure delivered. Oh, okay. So do you normally go and haul it in your own truck then, Dave? Or do you just have it all delivered? Yeah, Wendy, yeah, and it's frustrating because you're trying to do that. So anyway, I just pray that everybody will be able to get good stuff this year for your garden. So, but do create that plan for next year's development on that. All right. Into the principles of permaculture. I'm not going to say, well, you have to grow this and do this and everything else. So, whatever permaculture design you develop, what you want to grow and everything, that's going to have to be your research, your personal thing, because it's going to change from climate to climate. From Curie, your permaculture would be far different than what I would grow, than from what Julie would grow, or Patty, or or Alicia. So, it's very, very different. I know Dave is really working on developing his, and it takes time. It really does. So in the show notes below, I put in 3 website links that you can go to on. 2 are the principles of permaculture and kind of what they are and how to incorporate them and what to look for, because it's going to be a lot of information, but it'll be good to have to go back to, maybe to write down and just make a list. It's like, okay, I really, really want to do permaculture. And it's not for everybody, but if this is something you feel called to do and you want to, go in and write all this stuff down and then do your research and figure out what it is you want to grow and what you can grow there. I also put a excuse me, a link for Joel Salatin's website at Polyface Farms. He's like um, one of the biggest for permaculture and different things, and especially working with animals and stuff. So, and then I have a list of channels. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 channels. It looks like. That I put the links down below, and so you guys can check them out. There were a few that I'd never even heard about before, but as I was kind of researching. But everybody knows Justin Rhodes, then Homesteading Family, and of course Howie at Food Forest Permaculture, and he's created like a permaculture in an urban environment in a very small space. So he's done an amazing job. But there is Hugh Richards. That's a small backyard permaculture, which would be great for anybody who just has a very small area. Mossy Bottom. I love that one. He's from Ireland. So he's got a great one there. And Park Rose Permaculture is another. And those are just a very few of them. There's a ton of them out there, but do your research and figure out what you want. So Dave, you said 2 batches ago you got delivered, last batch you hauled. Okay. Oh, hi Connie. That is great. Just a few blocks from you. Oh, that's so nice. I don't even know where around in my area I could even get organic compost. I haven't really, I guess, called around. I mean, I know where I get my dirt and stuff like that, but again, it's just black dirt. It's not compost or anything. I don't know that anybody really composts around here. I mean, there's farms all over, and of course they as they're mucking out the barns and and creating their piles of straw and manure and stuff like that, they make piles of it, and then in the spring they spread it out. So they're like composting their own for their own fields, but not necessarily anything I would want to put in my garden, that kind of thing. So I just have not heard of anything around here. So Patty said, yes, it does take time. Yes, you have a friend who has a permaculture garden, Northeast Portland, that Ben and you helped get ready to plant. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, Dave, you follow Mossy Bottom. Fun. I had never come across him before, but he does look fun. Are you talking about Hugh Richards? Then Patty, apparently. So, Edible Acres. Oh, sure. Very great. Okay. I'm going to add that down here. Edible Acres. Check that out. Thank you for you guys for your input. I appreciate that. So the word permaculture comes from the root words permanent and agriculture. So it aims to make food production or agriculture easier and more sustainable by mimicking the permanent regenerative systems that can be found in nature. So we're just trying to duplicate what nature is doing, but kind of in a semi-controlled way and growing what we want, right? The idea is that in the wild, ecosystems don't need any input from human beings. They regenerate all on their own. Permaculture, therefore, aims to replicate many of the natural systems that exist in order to produce more or higher yields with less human input. So you're saving time, energy, and resources in that way. So, Dave, no, I don't. Mossy is his dog. I think it's his dog. It's an Irish setter. Oh, that's fun. I was thinking, in Ireland, things are mossy kind of anyway. So Mossy is his dog. fun. He looks like a fun guy. So I think I'm gonna definitely go back and subscribe. So I was just, you know, putting in the search bar food forest or no permaculture sites, and so those were all coming up. Um, so in short, permaculture actually works with nature rather than against it, which is in sharp contrast to conventional agricultural models that require constant management and input, like my garden beds, right? Planting, fertilizing, irrigating, but then on a large scale using herbicides and pesticides. I don't in my garden, but and they do all that in order to produce a yield and typically do a lot of ecological and environmental damage in the process. Um, yeah, you're right, Dave. It takes time. Like Patty said too, it does take time. Um, it because you've got to incorporate trees in there and they have to grow. And I'd mentioned Chelsea again on Little Mountain Ranch, and she's trying to create a permaculture type environment for herself. And she's planted fruit trees, and then underneath that puts, you know, other like medicinal perennials, and then puts in like her berry bushes and different things. So everything is just like loaded in there, but they're all um, taking care of each other kind of in that way. It's providing shade for this, and it's growing this and creating, a good soil environment for everything. So it's yeah, your fruit tree is only 5 to 6 feet tall. Yeah. Now building the understory. There you go. The hugelkultur bed you built over huge rocks is starting to decompose and plants are starting to show up. Nice. Yeah, see, Carrie, even though you've got so much rock, if you continue to pile on it more and more, eventually you're going to have 2 or 3 feet thick of good soil under there. Just keep loading it on and loading it on. And, you know, it'll all come together at some point. It just, like we said, it takes time, right? Yeah, and the terrace system is excellent when especially if you have a hillside that you're working with. So I love what they say here. Permaculture isn't just some hippy dippy environment movement. Said not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's actually a super practical way to design your homestead, your home, and even your entire life in order to make things easier, cheaper, and less time consuming overall. Because once you do the initial work of setting your permaculture systems up, you get to reap the benefits of those systems without having to constantly manage them, which always ends in higher yields for less work. And that's what it comes down to, taking care of the land too, but higher yields for less work. Yep. Too far to drag a hose there. But it's maybe try to build something closer to your house or something if you're able to. I don't know, or at least to your water system. I don't know the layout for what you've got, but yeah, just several huge rocks that couldn't be moved. Okay. The origins of permaculture. So the term permaculture was first coined by friends and coworkers Bill Mollison and David Holmgren in Australia back in the 1970s. They envisioned a new agricultural design that was both permanent and sustainable, using available resources in a way that offered high output or yields while producing little to no waste. And that's another thing. It's like, are you just going to get, 50 pounds of food, and then all of a sudden you've got a mound of of wasted stuff that you're trying to get rid of. So, um, Angel over at Park Rose Permaculture has an orchard, annual vegetable beds, chickens, turkeys, and a whole lot more. And yeah, quarter-acre lot. Yep. It's amazing what you can do with a small space. You don't need, 25 acres out there, just a small space. Angela, okay. Um, Mollison and Holmgren envisioned a set of 12 principles that permaculture practitioners could use to design everything from a small backyard garden to a large piece of property. While many of the principles apply to the initial phases of the design process, like designing a brand new garden or homestead, they are certainly beneficial to anyone interested in improving their gardening or homesteading setup, no matter how well established. I mean, I've got room in my backyard. For me and myself, I have not had the energy, I guess you could say, and the time to be able to really, do it out, just because I've got so much going on. As you guys know, the last couple of years have been rather consumed with other things. But I mean, I do have the space out there that I could create somewhat of a permaculture out there. I mean, I do have 3 apple trees, and I've got other shade trees, and I've got my garden. I'm trying to build that other garden. So, but it's not like a permaculture type of design in that way. I've made it more functional for what I can handle. But if I'm going to have to really think about that this next year. If there's something that I want to incorporate more into my yard, but I don't know at this point in time. Right now, I've got more than what I can handle, or at least just what I can handle. Um, so, you've got to look at your situation. But again, this is something, if you're really interested in permaculture, this is stuff that's, what time is right? Yep. Oh, what time, right, Kathy? Yes. We can only do the next thing we're able to. Yes, absolutely. Um, so, we're going to talk about the ethics and the principles of permaculture. So while we often think of permaculture as being directly related right to agriculture, it's actually more of a design concept than an agricultural practice, even though it's both, but it's more the design concept. The design can be applied to everything from our gardens to our homes, to our communities, and even ourselves. It's all based on a code of ethics and a set of principles that can be applied to everything that we do. So it's got 3 main ethical standards. First is earth care, so taking care of, not only the environment, but the soil, and what are you doing to make sure that it's there, that you're not using herbicides and pesticides and all that kind of stuff. What are you doing to create the best possible soil and environment for your food in that way? So that's the first one, earth care. The second one is people care. So it's all about making sure that the needs of the people around us are met in sustainable, self-sufficient ways. Feeding ourselves, our families, and our community members with the food that we grow is one way of caring for people. It's certainly not the only way, but you can think of, what we've experienced in the last couple of years with food shortages, and we know that probably will be getting worse. So it's like, what can we do to grow, to help other people and to be there for them? And so creating a sustainable gardening design in that way, that permaculture, that sustainable, regenerative, renewed type of thing, can actually help to feed more people. You can help your neighbor out with some squash or with apples or whatever it is that, the food that you got. So, um, Connie, you say your garden is getting big enough. It's hard to keep up with it. I know. I know. It's like, okay, you build so much, and it's like, all right, I've got this managed, and I can. So let me add a few more, and it's like all of a sudden, then pretty soon it's yeah, it's bigger than what you can have. You've done a great, beautiful job in your lot that you have. I know, right, Patty? It's really, really cool. So, hey, keep it simple. Hello to you. And for me, it is evening actually. So, good morning to you. So those are the first two of the ethical standards for permaculture: earth care, people care, and then the second one is, or the third one is fair share. And what that's talking about is taking only what you need from nature and then allowing the renewable resources time to regenerate. So you don't want to go through your woods and just clear cut everything. It's like, I'm thinking about forest management, just like take a few trees out that you need and allow the others to grow up as the ones are getting old, maybe starting to die off, get rotted. It's time to take those down, let the other ones come up. So, kind of that principle in that way, but it's just allowing things to regenerate. It's like, you know, if you have a family of four, you don't need to grow an acre of watermelon. It's like, unless you are selling it or feeding other people with it. But it's like, why take up all of that space just for all of that? And if it's going to go bad or you're not going to eat it or whatever. So part of the idea with that is to cut down on our own consumption. It's like, do we need to have as much as what we really are consuming? Um, the and cutting down on the waste too. So we want to, so that's kind of it. So it's earth care, people care, and fair share. So um, again, permaculture is a low energy way to grow lots of food. But the theory can be applied again to much more than just your garden design. So we've got 12 permaculture principles that can give us pointers toward living a slower and more sustainable life in and beyond the garden. Each of these principles can be interpreted kind of broadly, but there's a few examples of how you might apply them to your backyard or even to your life. So, hey, Gil, good evening to you. Molly, hi. Welcome, welcome. Um, Thank you, moderators. You guys are rocking it. Appreciate it. So, the 12 principles of permaculture, number one is to observe and interact. So, before you even take action, start by taking some time to observe what's happening in your backyard or your property or whatever. If you want to build a garden, watch the space and see what parts get sun and rain and which parts get the wind or the shade. Your job becomes so much easier when you can work with nature rather than spending time and effort tending to plants that are growing in the wrong spot. And we've talked about that before. So that's the first one: observe and interact. The second principle, is to catch and store energy. So when resources are abundant, it's smart to store some of them to use later. For example, use water tanks to catch rain, or again, pickle your summer vegetables so they can be eaten in the winter, and can what you've got. Design your house so that the sun heats it throughout a winter's day, retaining the warmth into the evening. So, you guys are awesome. Thank you. Especially if you find undesirable fungal activity in your soil. Yes, oak root. Oh, Molly. Yeah, that's some. That's some nasty stuff there. That's okay for being late. I'm glad to see you too. So, principles 12 principles. First is observe and interact, then catch and store energy. Our third principle is to obtain a yield. So, make sure that your hard work pays off. If you go to the effort of planting tomato seedlings, watering them, and keeping the snails off of them and the hornworms, you want to make sure you end up with some fresh tomatoes for your salad. If not, you need to improve your systems. On top of that, think about what yields you might be missing. Is there uncollected fruit? Anything left on trees in the neighborhood? Or weeds from the footpath you could collect for your chickens? So don't discount those either when you're weeding your garden. If you've got chickens, it's like, hey, here's some food for them. I'm not going to waste this. In permaculture, a yield can be anything that is useful in some way, whether it's fruits and vegetables, herbs, firewood, nuts, seeds, or even flowers. So even weeds and pests that are typically seen as a nuisance can produce yields of food and medicine, a food for the livestock, and organic matter for your compost pile. Oh, Patty, I don't even want to go there. You've been moving your hay feeders around the goat paddock so the hay goes drop. Oh, very good. Instead of flooded, now I have more soil and don't turn into ponds. See, you can see, Kiri, all the work that you're doing, you can already see some change and some benefit there. That's going to be really, really helpful. Connie, I bet that really did a number on your soil there too. Hey, Grammy Karen from Maryland, you guys. Oh, um, you're storing firewood. Next year, you'll have a big garden and we'll be canning from it. Gil, you've been working so hard at setting up everything there, and you're starting to reap the benefits, most definitely. Um, so, and again, a yield can also be meat, eggs, and dairy. Those are all considered a yield. It's not just garden stuff. So count those as part of your permaculture too, along with any of the fertilizer that animals like chickens and rabbits and cows can produce. Likewise, a rain barrel can produce a yield of rainwater, and solar panels can produce a yield of solar energy. So again, obtain a yield, whatever you're working at. Make sure you get something for your efforts, right? The fourth principle, apply self-regulation and accept feedback. Okay. So your garden is its own ecosystem, and some of your interventions might have negative effects on parts of it. So interventions as in, oh, I'm going to put diatomaceous earth on everything in here because I found one bug or something. It's like there can be that can help in one aspect, but it can end up having negative effects on something else. So always be careful of what you actually do and kind of regulate, things that you're doing. So, oh, Grammy Karen, that's so awesome. Well, say hi to them for me. And that's so sweet that you're on while you're there. Oh my goodness. Weddings are good. They're fun to go to. So watch your garden closely and listen to what it is telling you. Once you've heard the message, accept it and make changes. So many of these things we've talked about in one way or another, but which I didn't even know were actually part of the principles of permaculture, but that's what we're doing here. So number 5 in the principles, use and value renewable resources and services. Hey, Morgan, how are you doing tonight? Oh, that's so sweet of you to get on. There's Angela's other channel. Okay, great. Awesome. So the backbone of permaculture is sustainability. So we should always be looking for ways to use and value renewable resources whenever possible. There are many easy and inexpensive ways to do this. To make your garden sustainable in the long term, choose energy and materials that replenish themselves. Keep your soil rich and healthy by building up the microbes in your soil with compost. And then, like, choose cardboard and newspaper to suppress your weeds if possible. Oh, Morgan, that is so sweet. I, that's a great compliment. I really appreciate that. Um, yeah. Oh, Kiri, I know the weeds love that stuff. I have a pile of dirt in the backyard that I got a year ago that because of life I was not able to do anything with. And of course, it sprung up with all of the seeds that came with it and everything. And so it is a jungle back there. And so I have this mountain jungle in the back that I'm gonna have to get back out there, pull all the weeds by hand, and then find the dirt, find the soil pile that's down there. Oh, okay. Under using renewable resources and services, which is our fifth principle of permaculture. It says your property can produce food, both garden vegetables and weeds, that can feed your chickens and your compost pile. And then your chickens and your compost pile will produce fertilizer, which can then feed your garden. Perennial plants and trees are renewable, along with the yields they produce. So are the seeds that we collect from our annuals to plant the following year. So I would just think that Morgan Goldshaw Farm, with all your birds there, you probably have some pretty good piles of manure going to compost for your garden. So I can just imagine the boon you have with that. Do you end up getting more than what you need so that you could like sell composted manure, organic composted? That'd be kind of cool. So Molly, you thought you were doing that, but the bindweed was more powerful than you. Oh, you know that's that's good. That's sometimes you need to give your garden a rest. Absolutely. So you pull weeds, drop them back in the bed, it's mulch. Later it will break down. Hey, Crucy does gardening. Hello. Um, Between the birds and cattle, you have tons. It ends up mostly going on your trees. Well, you've got your whole entire orchard of trees, so that's probably good for it. I totally get it. So, perennial plants and trees are renewable along with the yields they produce. So are the seeds that we collect from our annuals to plant the following year. So trees, as we were just talking about, provide firewood, which is a renewable source of energy that we can use to heat our homes and everything else. And leaves, wood chips, and grass trimmings provide a great mulch in the garden, which acts as a weed barrier. It feeds the soil, helps retain moisture, and provides protection from frost and cold temperatures to our perennials. Okay, the sixth of our 12 principles of permaculture is produce no waste. So remember that old saying, waste not, want not? Well, have a look at what you throw away and reconsider whether it can be repaired or reused. Take the time to clean and maintain your garden tools so that they last longer. Create closed loops, like feed your food scraps to the chickens. They produce manure, the manure turns into compost and is added to the garden. That's a good loop right there, the cycle. And the garden produces veggies to eat and more scraps of food. Molly, you said you've seen a video recently where a gardener keeps a plastic garbage bin to do multi-year compost. Okay, there you go. Yeah, Crucy, I've definitely have experienced that and found that out that if I don't amend my gardens every year, my beds every year, I can tell the difference in how they produce. Absolutely. Um, so number 7 is to design from patterns to details. So, first of all, look for the patterns found in nature. You have water, sunlight, wind, slopes, shady areas, etc. How can you use those patterns in your property to design or improve its functionality? So really observe and to look at that, and not just what it would be in July, but look at it from like April through October. So kind of how things shift and everything. If you have beds that get more shade, well, then you need to have plants that can withstand more shade, that don't need as much sunlight, that type of thing. Observe your daily patterns too. What are the foods that you and your family love to eat? What parts of the garden do you walk past every day on the way to the front gate? Plant your garden in zones and put the herbs and veggies you use most in the zone closest to your kitchen door, where you can access them easily. The things that need less attention can be placed further away. And I know they've started calling it, like this is my kitchen garden, or there's a French word I can't remember right offhand, but yeah, yeah, Chrissy, you definitely need to be amending your soil. Definitely hi Donna, chocolate doesn't grow here. I know. Oh, so we want to, a potager. There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Morgan. Yes, a potager garden. The that is like everything that you need to pull out real quickly for your meals, and the things that you want to eat from. Like you said, have your gardens in zones. Number 8, integrate rather than segregate. So think of your garden as part of a much wider network of community gardens. So you'll benefit from being able to swap your excess produce, from sharing your tools and learning new skills. So rather than trying to achieve self-sufficiency for each household, think about building connections between households and aim for community sufficiency, because we really can't grow everything that we need all by ourselves. We try to, but we definitely need to, have that interconnection going there. Number 9, use small and slow solutions. And this kind of goes back to what we were earlier talking about, that it takes time to build a good permaculture garden area or property. It says, have you ever started a new hobby, went out and bought a bunch new equipment only to drop the hobby a few weeks later and let the equipment gather dust? Well, it's better to build your skills and invest slowly as you go. When building a garden, you can gather many materials cheaply or for free if you're willing to be patient. Going slowly means we save on resources because we won't buy new things that end up wasted. All right, Gil, thanks so much for coming. You guys go check out Gil in the next hour if you can. Number 10, use and value diversity. So we can describe this principle using the old phrase, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Growing a diversity of plants means there's always something for beneficial insects to eat. We got to think about that too. It's like we're going, oh no, insects, but there's a lot of beneficial insects in there, but we need to make sure that there's food in there for them to eat, not just good food for the bad insects. So we got to do that. And the diversity of plants also protects your garden from pests and disease. Number 11, use edges and value the marginal. Okay, so what does that mean? It's like we have balconies, the footpath verge, and the edge of the driveway are just a few of the spaces that can actually be productive. Herbs like nettle and dandelion can be foraged from the edges of footpaths or unused plots of land. The way the insects attacked other plants when there weren't garden crops was interesting. Exactly, exactly, Molly. Yep. Oh, Wendy, I'm so glad. I'm so glad this is helpful to you. Um, it's really a great process and a great I don't want to say philosophy, but it's great principles that are out there, and I think it's very valuable for people who are really wanting to have it work for them. And like I said, it takes work, it takes time, but the benefits and the payoff is just amazing. Says if you have pastured and forested areas on your acreage, consider the edge of your pasture where it meets the forest. So you can have edible weeds like nettle grow like well, edible weeds like nettle grow like to grow in this area. I can't talk tonight. And so do some fruit trees and berry bushes. Livestock like cows and pigs, but also chickens, geese, and goats, also like to hang out along the forest edge because it provides a variety of different forage as well as shade. Forest edges are also great for hunting and harvesting firewood. I can't help, and I don't know, Morgan, if you're still here or not, but can't help but think about you've got all that wonderful grazing land right, and then right into your forest edges, and right along there would be incredible places to have so many berry bushes and all that kind of stuff going on. Um, then number 12. Okay. Oh, sorry here. Forest edges are also great for hunting and harvesting firewood. Okay. Number 12. Creatively use and respond to change. All right, that's going to be a tough one, right? Nature, like human society, is constantly changing. As we absorb the shocks going on in the world, what changes do we need to make that leaves ourselves and our communities better off? Understanding, adapting, and planning for the inevitability of change is another key aspect of sustainability and a way of life for those following the principles of permaculture. Oh, you're still here, Morgan. Okay, so you have a ton of wild raspberry, seaberry, and blackberry along your forest borders. Nice. I have never heard of seaberry. Very, very cool. Oh, that's so great. Patty, is it where you are right now or where you from the house you sold? Yeah, because it's amazing what it actually, when you start to really look around you, what is actually growing, and even the weeds that are growing in your yard and everything, as long as you don't spray spray your grass. But it's like all the medicinals that are there and all the herbs and everything. All right, got a couple of minutes left here, and again, I've in the show notes below, I've got a couple of websites listed for the principles of permaculture. You can go through those again, study them. I've got a few channels that are listed down there that really focus on permaculture and how things all kind of work with that. My prep tip for tonight is sharpen your kitchen knives. That'll help you with easy processing of your harvest. Sharp tools make quick work of your produce. Who wants to cut into a tomato with a dull knife when you're trying to, you know, get it ready for all the stuff you have to do? So, it's a cold weather shrub with nice tart berries that are crazy high in vitamin C. Oh, I'll have to see if I can grow them here. That would be so cool. For those of you who don't know, I'm in Minnesota, west central Minnesota. So we used to be able to go up on Mount Spokane to get elderberries, but they're always pretty clean, but people harvest them to sell. Oh, also called buckthorn. Okay. Um, keep adding to the list too. As you cut a tomato with a dull knife. Yep, yep. Yeah, it's I a couple weeks ago before my first picking of green beans, that was the one thing I do. I went through and sharpened all my knives again, and um, it just makes such a difference. First of all, it gives you good clean cuts and everything, but it makes it go so fast, and you get it's enjoyable then. I mean, it's just frustrating to be working in the kitchen with dull knives. But anyway, one green world sells sea berry and others do not. Oh, others do too. Okay. A sharpener for serrated knives. I only have one serrated knife. It's a bread knife, and I think I sharpened it once and I just used my regular one. And I don't know if that was the right thing to do or not, but it seemed to work. Um, you need some self-sharpening knives. I don't know that that's such a thing, Carrie. Oh, that's funny. They say very sharp knives are safer. They are too. My mom would always let her knives get so dull. Bless her heart, God rest her soul. She would take wonderful big knives, especially like, butcher knives and stuff like that. And she would use the tips of them to pry things open. And so she had all these beautiful knives with the tip just chunked right off of it. And I'm like, what? And she wouldn't sharpen them. And then she'd be like, dude, then she'd always be cutting herself. And I'm like, Mom, just need to. Oh, so, yeah, yeah. You're trying to learn how to sharpen your knives with wet stones. Yeah, it does look easier. I have the little electric thing where it's got two different you first run it through and it's like got a rougher whetstone, and then the second one's got a little smoother one. So I do the two. But anyway, you guys, I'm done with the hour. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for all my moderators taking care of everything. I appreciate it so much. You guys have been awesome. This was a fun topic, packed with so much information. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Take care. God bless. Always have hope. And we'll see you next week. All right. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Molly. Yeah, it went really fast. Absolutely.